I am mad as hell, and I can't take it anymore. I am also Joshua Lisec, and this is Daily Persuasion. By now, you probably know a bit about me. I'm a New York Times bestselling author, co-author, nonfiction ghostwriter of more than 100 books, on all manner of topics you can imagine, and even those you can't. I'm also a certified professional hypnotist. Through this unique set of experiences, I teach you how to better influence the VIPs of your life and your career. This past couple of weeks, we have witnessed 4 left-wing domestic terrorism incidents. The most frustrating aspect of these, of course, is the fact that normies have absolutely no idea. Whether it's Jimmy Kimmel saying that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was performed by somebody who was further right than him, that he's one of MAGA's own, to, despite very obvious, demonstrated, recorded from eyewitness testimony, to having one of the unused bullets say, "Catch, fascist." It's pretty clear what this guy was involved in, plus his sexuality, okay? This is obvious. Obvious. We have the anti-ICE shooter, sniper, who opened fire on that facility in Dallas. Oh, we just never know. Yeah, the motivation is unclear. Agenda is just, well, I guess we'll just never know. All this right-wing rhetoric is just, it's just so violent, and this is where normies are at. They have no idea. They will watch a Stephen Miller speech, his eulogy for Charlie Kirk. They're at the Phoenix, Arizona event. President Trump spoke. Jack Posobiec spoke. It was great. They'll watch that kind of thing, and they will be mortified, horrified, and made afraid. Oh, the rhetoric is just so violent coming out of them. And they're the ones who are shooting up, and the right wing is just so violent. We need to fight back. We need to resist. It's a reality-free zone. It's reality-free zone. Something we need to have a conversation about, besides just this fact that Charlie Kirk, his killing, revealed to us who is and who's not a friend and who's an enemy. That's where we're at now. Friend-enemy distinction. This was ironically written about by the Soviets, the early Soviets. Bolshevik Revolution, 1917. We would reward our friends and we would punish our enemies. And different ones get different standards. And so we have so many free speech people talking about how dangerous it is for Jimmy Kimmel to get canceled when he's going on the network and lying and then fake crying about what happened. It doesn't seem like the elected right quite understands what time it is. You remember that security incident? Frankly, an immense security breach where President Trump was going up to the escalator at the United Nations building to give the address to the assembly. And apparently there's reason to believe that it was a prank done to him where he's going up the escalator and then it stops, right? And he made mention in his remarks later that he and the First Lady almost fell over, right? But we're in good shape. He made sure that we knew. And what did the Secret Service do when you have a president now motionless, effectively a sitting duck? What do? They just stood there, looked around. There was no bum rushing him. There was no human shields around him. There was no security measure. There was no whisking him out and away from there. Charlie Kirk was a general for the right, politically speaking, culturally speaking, religiously speaking. Not violently speaking, okay? Jack Posobiec called this asymmetric civil warfare. That means one side is doing it to the other, and the other side is not defending themselves. The other side is not fighting back. And that's the key. It's not just about not fighting back. We're seeing not necessarily even defense being mounted. The security breach there at the United Nations building, there's no reason that anyone else anywhere POTUS is should have control over the transportation situation or logistics. There's no reason. Ryan Wesley Ruth, the same day of this, was, of course, convicted, and apparently the sentence is going to likely be life imprisonment for those particular crimes, the attempted assassination, right? Jack Posobiec and I literally wrote the book about that, what happened to Donald Trump, you know. I do think, though, that on the matter of Charlie Kirk and this asymmetric civil warfare, Scott Adams gave the best defense, ironically, of Jimmy Kimmel, in which, with regard to his show being put on hiatus, a temporary suspension, and coming back after a few days, after lying about Charlie Kirk's assassin, claiming that Tyler Robinson was one of their own or one of MAGA, right? And it wasn't just his motivation was unknown. It was, and this is the think past the sale technique. This is left-wing thinking past the sale. Jimmy Kimmel insult, snark, attacked the collective right, the grieving collective right, I should say. And his remark was that we are acting as if he's not one of our own in MAGA. So notice that subtle. He's not saying he's one of ours. He's saying that we are acting as if he wasn't one of ours. That is a very clever sentence construction, by the way. It is wildly manipulative. Wildly manipulative. Remember I had James David Dixon on here? Remember that a couple weeks ago? What did we talk about? We talked about how the news decides what the news is. They don't report the news. They don't analyze the news. They tell you what the news is. They tell you what they want you to think. And nowadays, the line between political commentary and political news, political opinion editorial entertainment, all of those lines are all blurred together. We got a problem. We got a big problem. Do you remember when I was sitting across from Charlie Kirk? He was interviewing me and Jack Posobiec about that book, The Unhumans book, The Secret History of Communist Revolutions and How to Crush Them. One of the most pertinent questions that I remember him asking me specifically was, why didn't, in the lead up to the Bolshevik Revolution, why didn't the Tsar, why didn't the White Army do anything? They just kind of let it happen. They let the radical left organize, foment, terrorize even, to the point of slaughter. Did they deploy the White Army? Did they absolutely crush it? Did they pull a future, or maybe a retroactive Francisco Franco, who said in English, wherever I am, there will be no communism? No. What I told Charlie, he asked me, is like, why didn't the Tsar do anything that was appropriately defensive, or even to the point of what you might call fighting back? Why not? And Charlie asked me, was it hubris? Was it ego? And the metaphor I want to bring up to you now is the sort of the slow frog boiling situation, where the left then and now has increasingly but slowly gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And our reaction time is delayed. And the coherent narrative that this is what they do, what we are witnessing right now, this is a far left-wing revolution. It's just, but it's just below the level of open civil warfare. It's a low-intensity conflict where these are targeted assassinations, targeting killings, or they're random events like the sniper at the Dallas, Texas situation, the ICE facility, right? Or the transvestite shooter at the Catholic school, right? These ideologies are all linked, but there's not armies on an open battlefield marching out to meet the other. People think, a civil war is going to be, like a Republican army against a Democrat army. Are you insane? This is not 1860. People think, John Brown, the domestic terrorism, 1859. Okay, then I think it was Colonel Robert E. Lee, if I remember correctly, was ultimately the one who brought him to justice. Oh, okay, that's kind of where we're at now, the equivalent, domestic terrorism and having to execute domestic terrorists like John Brown. Okay, so 1860, 1861, okay, Civil War, here we go. There's that, I think it's Harry Turtledove's alternative history, right, of a kind of a protracted civil war where World War I and II were fought in the United States as well, against like the southern states and the northern states, and so it might also be kind of in the popular subconscious mind, like that's what civil warfare looks like, and it's just not. And my fear is that we have something like a repeat of the troubles of Ireland and Northern Ireland, occupied Ireland, we might say, the Irish Republican Army, the IRA. We do not want that. Extrajudicial assassination, kidnapping, torture, slaughter. We absolutely do not want that. The Bronze Age pervert of all, what a name, right? BAP. He has talked about how tit-for-tat left-wing versus right-wing violence in the streets is catastrophic for a society, for an economy, for quality of life. Given the example of Argentina in the 70s and 80s, with right against left in the streets, political violence, paramilitary, death squads. We don't want that. We don't want that. So the call to action today is about the VIPs in your life, your local elected representatives. I have been going to as many local Republican events as I can to talk to elected officials about this. Talking to my state rep, talking to judges, talking to people who are men and women of influence locally in my region, sheriffs, deputies, about this, about what time it is, taking the pulse, taking the temperature, that we need orderly justice. The deployment of righteous, lawful violence, right? Mutually assured destruction means they're not going to hurt us because the consequences will be worse than what they gain from hurting us, you see. That's biblical, that's rational, that's reasonable, that is American. But with the delays of the Department of Justice on doing anything, understanding that this is, okay, Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization, an international terrorist organization. Okay, do we trust Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel? Binders full of Epstein. Yeah. I think chimping out on Twitter is probably one thing that could be helpful, but this particular event, this assassination of Charlie Kirk, happened in Utah, Provo, right? I think Utah Valley University. The sniper on the streets there was from a rooftop in Dallas, Texas. Dallas is pretty blue, but Texas being a Republican state. Utah, Republican state. Yes, there's the Rose City Antifa at Portland, Oregon. There was that situation there where Antifa surrounded and assaulted an ICE facility and ICE officers and whatnot, and there were arrests made there. This is not just a blue city problem. This is an everywhere problem. It's a where you live problem. Even if you're in like deep red Louisiana, okay, northwestern Florida, the Panhandle, right? The call to action is for you to become a known quantity with your local leaders. Go to the city council meetings. Go to the local events when your state rep or your state senator of your district comes, shows up, and speaks. Talk to them about it. Make sure they're awake and paying attention. Just think first line of defense. Your sheriff, police chief, firefighters. Talk to them about what you're concerned about. They might be concerned about it too. And it will probably be emboldening for them and enabling them in the best way possible that they talk to somebody who's a concerned citizen who gets it, who understands what time it is. Part of persuasion is simply validating that other people, you think as they do. And that might be enough. It might be enough for Charlie.